Have you ever loved someone with all your heart, only to realize later that you were just a piece in their game? Many people, especially those in their 50s and beyond, find themselves in relationships where they give everything only to receive nothing real in return. Why does this happen? Because love makes us see things through rose-colored glasses. When we care about someone, we tend to ignore red flags, and the people who take advantage of this are often very skilled at hiding their true intentions. Today, we're going to talk about 6 clear signs that a man was using you, but you were blind to it. If you've ever found yourself questioning whether a relationship was genuine, this video will help you recognize the patterns. To make it even clearer, let's look at Linda's story. Linda is 55 years old and recently divorced after 25 years of marriage. When she met Michael, a charming and confident man, she felt like she had a second chance at love. He said all the right things, made her feel special, and for the first time in years, she was excited about the future. But slowly, small things didn't add up. Certain moments made her pause, but she brushed them aside. Only later did she realize the truth: Michael wasn't in love with her. He was only in love with what she could offer him. Linda had always been a kind and giving person. After her divorce, she wasn't sure if she would ever find love again. 25 years of marriage had made her feel secure, even though the love had faded long ago. Now, at 55, she was stepping into the world of dating for the first time in decades. That's when she met Michael. Michael was 58, tall, well-dressed, and knew exactly how to make a woman feel special. They met at a coffee shop when he offered to buy her a drink after overhearing her order. He made small talk effortlessly, asking about her favorite books, her career, and even her childhood. Unlike many men she had met online, Michael seemed genuinely interested in her life. "You're fascinating," he said, smiling. "I haven't met someone as real as you in a long time." Linda blushed. It had been years since anyone had looked at her like that, and their connection grew quickly. Within the first few weeks, Michael was calling her every day, sending good morning texts, and making her laugh with stories about his life. He told her he had been married twice but never found someone who truly understood him. "You're different, Linda," he said one evening over dinner. "You make me feel at peace." Linda felt lucky. She had spent years taking care of others, her ex-husband, her children, even her coworkers. Now, someone was taking care of her. But there were little things that didn't quite make sense. Michael was always full of compliments, yet he rarely asked about her feelings. When they made plans, he often changed them at the last minute. And while he seemed so generous with his words, he wasn't the same with his actions. At first, Linda ignored these small concerns. After all, no one is perfect. But as time went on, patterns began to form. Then came the moment that made her stop and wonder. One evening, Michael showed up at her house unexpectedly. He looked frustrated. Inside, as he sat down, he said, "I hate to ask this," rubbing his forehead, "but I'm in a tough spot right now. My business deal didn't go through, and I need a little help to get back on track." "Just something temporary." Linda hesitated. She wanted to help him. He had been so wonderful to her, so understanding. But something about the way he asked felt rehearsed. Still, she told herself that relationships were about support, so she gave him a small loan. Days turned into weeks, and she started noticing more things. Michael would disappear for long periods, then reappear as if nothing had happened. He avoided conversations about the future, and though he made big promises, nothing ever came from them. Linda's heart told her she had found love, but her mind started whispering a different truth. It wasn't until months later that she finally saw the situation for what it really was. Michael never loved her. He loved what she gave him, her attention, her time, her kindness, and yes, even her financial support. And she wasn't the only woman he had done this to. Linda had been blind to the truth, but now she saw it clearly. Here are the 6 signs that a man is using you. Sign 1, he only reaches out when he needs something. At first, everything felt perfect. Michael was attentive, affectionate, and always knew the right things to say. He would send Linda sweet good morning texts, check in throughout the day, and call her every night before bed. It had been years since Linda had felt this kind of attention from a man, but slowly something didn't feel right. Linda started noticing a pattern. Whenever Michael was extra affectionate, there was always a request coming. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, she was relieved to see his name pop up on her phone. "Hey, beautiful," he said. "How was your day?" Linda smiled. "It was okay, just exhausting. Work has been overwhelming." Michael sighed dramatically. "I get it. Life can be stressful." Then he hesitated before adding, "Actually, I was going to ask, could you do me a favor?" That night, it was something small, picking up a package for him. A week later, another favor. Then a bigger request. "I hate to ask, but I'm in a bit of a tight spot financially. My paycheck is delayed, and I just need a little help until next week." At first, Linda didn't think much of it. After all, relationships are about supporting each other, right? But then she started noticing the pattern. When Michael needed something, whether it was money, a ride, or even just emotional support, he was the most loving, attentive man in the world. But when Linda needed him? Silence. A man who truly cares about you will be there even when he doesn't need anything from you. If his affection disappears the moment he gets what he wants, he's not in love, he's just using you. True love is about giving and receiving, not taking and taking. If you feel like you're always the one giving while he only reaches out when it benefits him, it's time to take a step back and ask yourself, is this love, or is this convenience? Because real love doesn't come with conditions, and you deserve someone who is there for you not just when they need something, but because they genuinely care. Sign 2, he never introduces you to his friends or family. In every serious relationship, there comes a point when you meet the people who matter most to your partner, family, friends, maybe even coworkers. When a man truly cares about you, he wants to share his life with you, and that includes introducing you to the important people in it. But with Michael, that moment never came. At first, Linda didn't think much of it. They had been dating for 3 months when she first asked, "So when do I get to meet your friends?" Michael smiled, but his answer was vague. "Oh, soon. We should all go out one night." But that night never came. Months passed, and Linda started noticing a pattern. Whenever they went out, Michael picked places far from his usual hangouts. He never invited her to any social gatherings and rarely even mentioned his family. One evening, as they were having dinner, Michael's phone buzzed on the table. The name flashed on the screen, Mark, best friend. Linda glanced at him. "Aren't you going to answer?" Michael quickly silenced the phone. "I'll call him back later." Linda hesitated. "You talk about Mark all the time. I'd love to meet him." Michael sighed. "Look, I just like to keep my personal life separate. My friends, they wouldn't really understand us." A strange feeling settled in Linda's stomach, but she didn't push it. After all, wasn't it normal for some people to take their time before introducing a partner? Then one night, everything became clear. Linda was out shopping when she saw Michael at a restaurant, laughing with a group of people. One of them was a woman. Linda didn't want to assume the worst, so she waited until they were alone that night. "Who were you with earlier?" she asked. Michael's face tensed. "Just some old friends," he replied. Linda nodded slowly. "You know, I've been waiting to meet your friends for months." Michael sighed dramatically. "Why does it even matter? Does meeting my friends somehow prove my feelings for you?" And just like that, he made her feel like she was the one being unreasonable. When a man truly loves you, he will want to include you in his life. He won't make excuses. He won't keep you hidden. If he avoids introducing you to his family and friends, it's because he doesn't see you as a permanent part of his life. Real love is about integration, not isolation. And if a man is keeping you a secret, you have to ask yourself why, because the answer is usually something you already know deep down. Sign 3, he manipulates you with guilt. A healthy relationship is built on honesty, open communication, and mutual understanding. But when a man constantly makes you feel guilty for expressing your feelings, that's not love, it's manipulation. Linda didn't realize this at first. Whenever she had a concern, Michael had a way of twisting the situation until she was the one apologizing. One evening, after he canceled their plans for the third time in a row, she finally spoke up. "I was really looking forward to tonight," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "It feels like you're always too busy." Michael sighed heavily. "Wow, I can't believe you'd say that. Do you even know how much stress I'm under? Work has been exhausting, and I was really hoping you'd be the one person who understood." Immediately, Linda felt bad. "Of course I understand," she said quickly. I miss spending time with you." Michael shook his head. "I don't need pressure right now. I need support. I thought you were different from my ex." And just like that, Linda felt guilty for even bringing it up. This wasn't the first time. A few weeks later, she noticed Michael had been distant. He wasn't calling as often, and his texts had become short and dismissive. Finally, she worked up the courage to ask, "Is something wrong? You seem a little distant lately." Michael scoffed, "So now I have to explain myself every second of the day? Why can't you just trust me?" Linda felt the familiar knot in her stomach. She hadn't accused him of anything. She had simply wanted reassurance. But somehow, he made her feel like she was being unreasonable. So she apologized again. But then something happened that made Linda start to see things differently. One evening, she was having a rough day. Work had been exhausting, and she just needed someone to talk to. So she called Michael. He answered, sounding irritated. "What's wrong?" Linda hesitated. "I just had a tough day. I needed to talk." Michael sighed. "Look, I can't deal with this right now. You're always so emotional." Linda froze. Always so emotional? She had spent months walking on eggshells, making sure she didn't say the wrong thing, trying to be the perfect girlfriend who never caused problems. And yet, the moment she needed support, she was suddenly too much to handle. That night, Linda had a realization: Michael never actually listened to her feelings. He just made sure his feelings always came first. A real man won't make you feel guilty for having emotions. He won't twist your words to make himself look like the victim. If every time you express a concern you end up apologizing, you are not in a loving relationship. You are in a manipulative cycle. A healthy partner will listen, communicate, and validate your feelings. If he always turns things around to make you feel bad, it's time to ask yourself, are you in a relationship or are you being controlled? Because love should make you feel safe, not silenced. Sign 4, he doesn't really listen to you. A man who truly cares about you will listen, not just to respond, but to understand. He will remember the little things, ask about your feelings, and make an effort to connect with you on a deeper level. Michael, however, was different. At first, Linda didn't notice it. He was charming, engaging, and always seemed interested in their conversations. But as time went on, she started realizing that Michael wasn't really listening. He was just waiting for his turn to talk. One evening, they were sitting at a cafe when Linda started reminiscing about her childhood. "You know," she said, smiling, "one of my favorite memories is going to the beach with my dad at sunrise. We would collect seashells, and he always told me that each one had its own little story." Michael nodded absent-mindedly. "That's nice. Speaking of stories, did I tell you about the time I went deep-sea fishing in Florida?" And just like that, the conversation shifted completely. At first, Linda brushed it off. Maybe he just got excited. But then it kept happening. She told him about her favorite book. Weeks later, when she mentioned it again, he acted like he had never heard of it. She shared her dream of traveling to Greece. A month later, when she brought it up, he looked confused. "You want to go to Greece?" he asked. "That's the first time I've heard of this." It wasn't the first time. One night, after months of noticing this pattern, Linda decided to test something. She told Michael, "I've always wanted to take a cooking class. It's been a dream of mine for years." A few weeks later, she casually mentioned, "I was thinking of signing up for that cooking class I told you about." Michael blinked. "Cooking class? Since when do you want to take a cooking class?" That's when Linda finally saw the truth. Michael never really listened. He pretended to listen. He nodded. He smiled. But he never actually absorbed what she said. And yet, when it came to his needs, he remembered every detail. He remembered exactly when his bills were due. He remembered exactly how she could help him with his errands. He remembered exactly when he needed emotional support. But when it came to her, he never remembered because he never truly cared. A man who loves you will pay attention not just to your words, but to your emotions. He will remember the little things because they matter to you. He will ask about your passions, your dreams, your worries, not because he has to, but because he wants to. If you constantly feel like your words go unheard, if your thoughts and feelings seem to disappear into thin air, it's time to ask yourself, are you in a relationship or are you just background noise in someone else's life? Because love isn't just about being present. It's about being present in the moments that matter. Sign 5, he makes big promises but never follows through. Love is about actions, not just words. A man who truly cares about you will follow through on his promises because he values your trust. But when a man constantly makes big commitments and never delivers, it's a sign that he's just telling you what you want to hear. Michael was a master of making promises. "We should go to Italy together," he told Linda one night. "I've always wanted to explore Europe with someone special." Linda's heart soared. She had always dreamed of visiting Italy, walking through the streets of Rome, enjoying coffee in a little cafe overlooking the canals of Venice. The next day, she started looking at flights. She even found a great deal and excitedly showed it to Michael. His response? A forced smile. "Oh yeah, that would be amazing, but maybe we should wait until things settle down a bit." Linda brushed it off. Life was unpredictable, and timing wasn't always perfect. But then it kept happening. Michael promised to take her on a weekend getaway, he canceled at the last minute. He promised to help her fix her broken kitchen sink, he never showed up. He promised to introduce her to his sister, he always had an excuse. Every time Linda reminded him of his words, he had a response ready. "I really want to, babe, but things are crazy right now. Trust me, it'll happen soon. I didn't forget. I've just been overwhelmed." One evening, they were sitting on the couch when he sighed dramatically. "I hate that we haven't been able to do all the things we planned, but once work calms down, I swear I'm going to make it up to you." And just like that, Linda felt hopeful again. But weeks passed, then months, and nothing ever changed. One day, as she was sitting alone in her kitchen, she started thinking about all the promises Michael had made. And then a painful realization hit her: Michael never intended to keep those promises. He just said what he needed to say in the moment to keep her happy, to keep her waiting. Because as long as she was waiting, she wouldn't leave. A man who loves you won't just talk about the future. He will build it with you. If he keeps making promises but never follows through, pay attention to his actions, not his words. Because a man who constantly postpones his commitments isn't busy. He just doesn't prioritize you. And love should never feel like waiting for something that will never happen. Sign 6, he loves what you do for him, not who you are. Love should be built on mutual respect and appreciation for who a person truly is. But when a man is only with you because of what you provide, your time, your effort, your emotional support, or even your financial help, that's not love. That's convenience. Linda had always been a giver. She loved taking care of people, making their lives easier, and supporting them however she could. When she was married, she spent years putting her husband's needs before her own. And now, with Michael, she had unknowingly fallen into the same pattern. At first, she thought Michael appreciated her kindness. He would say things like, "You're amazing. No one has ever been there for me like you have. You're such a blessing in my life." I don't know what I'd do without you. But over time, Linda started wondering, did Michael love her for who she was, or just for what she did for him? It started with small things. When Michael was sick, she was the one who brought him soup, checked in on him, and made sure he was comfortable. When he had a stressful day at work, she was the one who listened for hours, offering encouragement and reassurance. When he needed help with something, whether it was fixing a problem, handling a bill, or giving advice, Linda was always there. But when she needed something, Michael was too busy. She remembered the time she had a terrible headache and asked if he could pick up some medicine on his way over. He sighed, "I've had a long day. Can't you just take something at home?" She remembered the time she was going through a tough period at work and needed someone to talk to. "I don't know what to tell you," he had said, barely looking up from his phone. "You're strong. You'll figure it out." One day, a friend asked her a question that changed everything. What would happen if you stopped giving? If you stopped helping him, stopped supporting him, stopped making his life easier, would he still want to be with you? Linda had never thought about that before. At night, she imagined what would happen if she didn't reply to his messages immediately. She didn't check on him every time he was feeling down. She didn't always say yes when he needed something. Suddenly, she knew the answer: Michael wasn't in love with her. He was in love with her effort, her availability, her support, her emotional labor. And the moment she stopped giving, he would have no reason to stay. A week later, Linda decided to put it to the test. For once, she didn't text first. She didn't check in on him. She didn't go out of her way to do things for him. And guess what? Michael barely noticed. Days passed, and he didn't ask how she was doing. He didn't reach out just to see how her day was going. Then finally, he called her, but not to ask about her. "I've had the worst week," he groaned. "Everything is going wrong. Can we meet up? I just need someone to talk to." And that was when Linda saw the truth. Michael wasn't with her because he loved her. He was with her because she made his life easier. A man who truly loves you will love you for who you are, not just for what you provide. Love should be a partnership, not a one-sided effort. If a man only appreciates you when you're doing things for him but disappears when you need something in return, then you're not in a relationship, you're in a transactional arrangement. You deserve better. You deserve a man who loves you, your heart, your mind, your dreams, not just what you can offer. Because love isn't about owing someone, it's about choosing someone every single day. In conclusion, you deserve more than being used. If any of these warning signs sound familiar, it's time to face the truth: he was never really in love with you. He was in love with what you gave him, and that is not the kind of love you deserve. Linda had to learn this lesson the hard way. She had spent months giving her heart, her time, and her energy to a man who only saw her as a source of convenience. But when she finally stepped back and looked at the reality of their relationship, everything became painfully clear. She was always available for him, but he was rarely available for her. She made his life easier, but he made her life harder. She listened to him, cared for him, supported him, but when she needed support, he was too busy. For so long, she had convinced herself that this was normal, that this was how love worked. It wasn't until she walked away that she realized real love doesn't feel one-sided. Love should never feel like you're begging for attention. A man who truly loves you will show up for you even when he doesn't need anything in return. Introduce you to the people who matter to him because he's proud to have you in his life. Listen to you not just to respond, but to understand. Follow through on his promises because your trust matters to him. Love you for who you are, not just for what you give. If a man only makes an effort when he wants something, if he only says the right words but never backs them up with actions, if he makes you feel guilty for having emotions, then you have to ask yourself, is this love, or is this manipulation? It's never too late to walk away. Linda wasted months trying to convince herself that Michael cared, but deep down, she had always known something was wrong. She had just been too afraid to admit it because admitting it meant starting over, and starting over is scary. But here's the truth: Walking away from the wrong person is the first step to finding the right one. If you recognize these signs in your relationship, don't ignore them. Don't tell yourself that things will change if you just try harder, give more, or wait a little longer. Because the right person won't need to be convinced to treat you right. You deserve real love, not half-effort love, not love with conditions, not love that only exists when it's convenient for him, but real, consistent, genuine love. So if you've ever been in a relationship like this, I want to hear from you. What was the moment you realized he was just using you? Share your story in the comments, because your experience could help someone else see the truth before it's too late. Remember, love should never feel like a guessing game. When it's real, you'll know. Thank you so much for watching and listening up till this point. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to encourage us by liking the post, smashing the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed, turning on the bell notification and sharing your thoughts in the comments section. See you on the next one.